summarize the war the way I think about what's happening in a single sentence for you, I'd say America and Iran have bombs. The world, including us, has watches.
Yeah.
But only Iran has time.
Right.
We are all looking at watches. Kab khatam hoga, when's this going to end? But only Iran can decide when this ends.
We have Ajay Sharma, President at Edelweiss, who's joining in at NDTV in our studios. Welcome to the show, Ajay. Always a pleasure to speak to you as well. My question coming to you over here is, you've been analyzing the situation pretty well, and you've been speaking about the shift from this traditional kinetic warfare coming to a asymmetric and systemic conflict, right? Based on the report that you've released so far, what is your initial assessment of what's happening and the eventual, outcome that we could see?
Okay, pictorially, if I have to explain it to you, think of a typical Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh curve, the S curve in MBA, right? The traditional war is at Mahesh phase. The big weapons, loha, loha, loha. And everything asymmetric is at the early, I'd say Vishnu or, that phase. And what I mean by that is just think of an aeroplane. I'll explain it very simply to you.
Yeah.
America is saying Iran doesn't have aeroplanes. They don't have an air force, they don't have a navy. Do you need an aeroplane? What was aeroplane's job? It was an eye in the sky with a bomb. If you have a satellite over it and you have missiles to target which are precise, do you need an aeroplane? You don't.
Or if you have Shahid drones.
And then if you have Shahid drones. And the other thing is, think of it this way. Everything is a weapon now. It's not the stuff that you make from steel and forging. For America, if you have sanctions, SWIFT is a weapon. Their payment systems is a weapon. Geography is a weapon, right? Yeah. GPS is a weapon. You not get access to navigation. So what did China do? They created their own payment systems, their own BIDAO satellites, which they've given to Iran. So if everything becomes a weapon, your dependence on a type of weapon, which is the old type of weapons, is much lower. And finally, if you weaponize geography and you weaponize time, right? So if I have to summarize the war the way I think about what's happening in a single sentence for you, I'd say America and Iran have bombs. The world, including us, has watches.
Yeah.
But only Iran has time.
Right.
We are all looking at watches. Kab khatam hoga, when's this going to end? But only Iran can decide when this ends. And the more it delays, the worse is it for all of us, especially India. Right? So that's why sorry, go on.
So the gambit, therefore, and what you're suggesting is ultimately it depends on weaponization of geography. And weaponization of the control of that strait. The assumption here, though, is that a major military action cannot be taken with feet on the ground that will disrupt that. Is that something that you factored?
Okay, so let's run scenarios. Okay, I'm a student of history.
Yes.
Okay, all of us are. The only strait that was ever controlled for centuries was by Romans in the Mediterranean Sea, when the whole sea was under their control. The British had Suez Canal for what, 74 years?
Yeah.
With Egyptian insurgency and the help of Russia, they had to give it up.
Yeah.
So no strait you can control unless you control both sides forever.
Right.
Let's assume you control 300 kilometers. I'm just thinking, see, I'm not a defense expert,
sure,
but just from history.
Sure.
You will control 300 kilometers of the shoreline. Americans control it all. For any ship to be targeted, I can target anywhere from Iran.
Right.
Anywhere with the drones. Now look at the AVAC they targeted about 2 weeks back.
2 weeks back, correct.
At the tail is the radar. They did not hit the cockpit. They hit the tail of, so precision's there, cheap products are there. I'll give you a simple example. Ukraine, I was watching this video. They have built a drone from styrofoam, right? And this gentleman, he's I think a commodore or someone in the army, and he said, look, we were trying to order these quantities for the flight controllers. You know where they found them finally? Pinduoduo, Alibaba, Amazon at $3.
Okay. Yeah.
$3. A flight controller with Wi-Fi, all abilities, navigation and camera at $3. All I need is $3, a pankha, a fan, few explosive and a styrofoam. That's a weapon.
And also reuse of drones is taking place now,
yeah.
because you have those images of a Russian drone, I believe it was, that was using those metal rods to destroy another drone so that it can be reused.
Yes. See, styrofoam you can't,
Yeah.
but metal ones you can.
Yeah.
Can.
So this is a very different world we live in, right? Anything traditionally we've thought of is, so that's why I say this can go on and on. You cannot capture the Strait, and especially with, see, Iran is 9 crore people.
Yeah.
How do you capture a 20-kilometer place? For how long?
How long?
Right? Think about it. If I pay you $1 million to be a captain of a ship, right? $10 million, will you go? You will not.
I understand that aspect. Now, we're talking from a perspective now as to, let's shift this to the impact,
Yes.
because that's what people want to talk
Yes.
about.
Yes.
One,
Yes.
what is that fiscal hit that we should be looking at, number one? And two, when you're looking at markets as well, I think there is no direction in terms of the stock markets right now. I was just looking at a particular trend where if you have to look at Trump and his commentary, it started off initially with bitcoins, it moved to gold, it moved to silver. Now you're talking about energy, that's crude, and we don't know what's going to be the next asset class. And the moment there is a downtake, there is a press conference. The moment there is an uptick, there is a press conference. That's the trend I've seen, at least in terms of where crude oil goes right now. How are you looking at the impact? Because people want to know, how do you navigate this?
See, so okay, I can't look at impact of everything. I'll tell you, I look at India and
Correct.
Asian markets. Let's just look at India.
Yeah.
I'll give you 3 numbers. Just remember 555. 5.5 million barrels is what we need every day.
Right.
And about 50,000 tons of gas, broadly. Okay, just the math. Each VLCC, a large one, can carry 2 million barrels of oil. So daily India needs about 3 million barrels, 3 million VLCCs, and every VLGC, the gas carrier, carries about 50,000 tons. So just mathematically, we need 3 VLCCs, 1 VLGC every day.
Sure.
That's all.
Sure.
I'm talking volumes.
Right.
Can India source at least that much? So will we get our volumes? I think yes. I don't think we will suffer like the Philippines or other countries that we won't get our volumes. Challenge is price. Every Indian doubles their petrol cost every month purely because oil has gone from $50 to $100.
Right.
It's straight doubled. 50 into, you run the math, it's about 70, 80, $100 billion of GDP. That's a lot of money for us. Fiscally, it is a massive drain. Just numbers. And then I'm sure you've heard of all the supply chains. I'll give you just 2 case studies. There are dear friends of mine, they run a small startup, about 100 crore turnover, ultra high-end packaging for Tesla parts and all. Gas price has gone from 12 rupiah to 28 in a week.
It's tripled, right?
Right? So I was in Kunnur meeting a gentleman, a defense startup called Astrayan. We went to this restaurant. He said, Ajay, chola bhatura is bahut gajab hai yahan. They have this beautiful menu of about 28 pages. This burger gives me a single page,
sheet. That's what it's
7
come down
sheet,
to.
and he says, no chola bhatura. Mera garam, sir, garam kuch nahi. Aapko milkshake chahiye. I said, come on, I've not come to Kunnur for a milkshake in this cold. So that's what's happening in India. So this just started, see, the more you've heard tiles. So the second order, third order effects are still to come. My recommendation to all my friends, in fact, I was in office and I was telling Gautam, my colleague, he loves gajar ka halwa. I said, gajar ka halwa mat khaiyo, bahut der mein pakta hai, takes forever to cook. Too much gas will be consumed, so don't have gajar ka halwa.
Okay. So but the point, serious point is,
Yes.
the question is, and it was being made by our previous speaker as well, is that don't put too much stock in the idea that control of the Hormuz Strait is a doomsday situation, because 25%, this is what his words, I'm
No,
quoting.
sure.
25% of crude oil passes through
Yes,
the
it
Strait.
does.
That means 75% of crude oil comes from outside the Strait.
Yeah.
So we can adjust supply
Beautiful.
chains to adjust.
Beautiful.
The cost is there. So why is that not a situation?
It is a situation. Give me time. Does India have time? Do you have 1 year? Take examples. Saudi has a 5 million pipeline from this coast to that coast.
Right.
It's chock-a-block.
It's packed.
They have
right?
1 million of diesel, which is refined. See, there is two processes here. One is the oil and one is the refining, right? We can make our own LPG. LPG is the top of fractionation, right? Uske niche petrol hai, then, naphtha and whatnot. We need time. Give me $100 billion, it'll still take me 2 years. My mom needed 9 months to have me. 9 women could not have had me in a month. You take time.
Yeah.
Where do we have time? That's what I'm saying. Bombs, watches, and time.
Okay.
We don't have time, sorry.
We don't have time over here, as what you're saying. To figure out as to what one should look at in terms of impact, in 30 seconds as a layman, where are we heading in terms of financial impact, in terms of market impact, if you have to look at India as a country?
Okay, simple, heads I win, tails I survive. And we're in tails zone right now, in 5 seconds. Second thing, anything you do in life, large profit, small loss, large loss, we could be entering a large loss territory if this goes on for a month. All bets are off.
All bets are off is what you're saying. Okay. And that's the takeaway I have from this as well. I know Alex has a point.
Very last question. From a policy response standpoint, is it possible to mitigate that?
Of course it is.
So,
see, first you have to subsidize oil for some time.
Yeah.
You have to subsidize LPG for some time. You have to tell Indians to go out less. All of those things, we have to be in a solidarity, and all those things will come into play if this goes on for 3 months.
Yeah, but then, subsidy is not going to be the key over here, because with the subsidy, how much hit can the government take, right? That's the other question.
See, so what do? You borrow from the future when you're in trouble today. It's a short-term loan we are taking from our own future.
So it's a COVID-like shock.
That's all. It's a shock.
And that's exactly what even Pranjal was talking to us this morning, right? That we are in a COVID-like situation in terms of how growth...
we will be in 2 weeks.
Probably. Growth, inflation, and it's a cascading impact.
Yeah, on that note, thank you so much
Pleasure.
for taking the time.